Good afternoon and welcome to what is surely the first video of its kind on YouTube. This is a video talking about the big Black Sabbath / Ozzy Osbourne Back to the Beginning concert that took place recently. I don't think this has appeared, anybody's opinion has ever appeared on YouTube. I am surely the first one, so welcome to hearing a stranger voice their opinion on this very prestigious and important concert. I would have liked to have had this up sooner. You know, they say strike while the iron is hot. But oh my God, I think the concert, the live stream concert was 9 hours and 54 or 57 minutes, something like that. And it took me a long time to get through it. I downloaded the concert the concert happened Saturday, July 5th. I downloaded it on Monday. I think I started watching it either on Monday night or maybe Tuesday. I can't remember. I think it was Monday night. And man, it was tough to get through. Not for lack of quality or anything like that, but my God, it's 10 hours. Big credit to all the people that were there at the concert, drinking beer all day and spending all their money. And fortunately for them, it didn't rain, but it was a long thing. As such, this video is also probably going to be quite long, as my videos have a tendency to do. My producers told me, try to keep it under an hour, but I think that's impossible. I don't know what the final run time is going to be, but I don't think I can get it under an hour, much to the dismay of my producers. So I'm going to talk about the concert. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first talk about my overall thoughts, as I'm sure you're very interested in the concert as a whole, and then I'm going to go through act by act, band by band. I'm going to go through it with a fine toothbrush, I think is what they say, and really look at it under the microscope, I think is another thing they like to say. I got a lot of notes here, man, and this is also why it took me so long. I've got this entire page, and then on the other side, almost another entire page. This was a very hefty concert, so there was a lot to go through. And you know, watching the concerts, I kind of watch it in chunks. I would watch the first hour and a half, and then the next day I would watch 40 minutes, and then maybe later in the day watch another half an hour or something. And also taking notes. A lot of times I had to pause to write the notes. I'm a very slow writer, so that slowed me down too. But I do have it all ready to go now, and I will begin. And before I talk about the actual concert, here we go again. I mean, even to start, it's going to be long. I was so excited about this concert in the aftermath of it that I got a new tattoo in tribute to Ozzy. This concert really did it for me. I'll talk about that more, obviously, as we go on. But I would like to show my new tattoo, my Ozzy themed tattoo, and it might be hard to show, but I'll try to show it, or them, I guess. Is it one or two? This, say hello to my can you see it? Can I do without kicking the camera over? My new friends. If you know, Ozzy has two knee tattoos just like this that he got, I don't know when, I don't know if he got them before Black Sabbath. I think he was quite young when he got them. And he got them on his knees. The story was that he said he was always kind of lonely, or he felt lonely and depressed, and he wanted somebody to talk to. So these tattoos were, these smiley face tattoos were his, gave him somebody to talk to. I always thought that was a very kind of sad, but also very happy, nice story. And it was kind of hard to get these tattoos because there's not too many pictures of them, at least clear ones. I've only seen two, and I tried to kind of grab or to take them, and then to just isolate the knee and get it. I did use ChatGPT a little bit just to because I think his real tattoos, the images are not great, but the real tattoos looked a little bit rough. And I told the tattoo guy, I don't care if there's imperfections. I don't care if the smile is a little bit crooked or if the eyes are not completely round. I want the imperfections, but I personally, this is the first time I've done it. This is I counted my 27th tattoo. This is the first one that I've had a physical hand in. So I printed them, took them to the tattoo guy. Sorry, I didn't print it. I took them, passed them to the guy through WhatsApp. He printed them, and then I took a pencil and kept the same eye shape, mouth shape, and nose shape, but just filled it in a little bit just to make it a little bit more bold and beefy. So there's my my tribute to Ozzy. This is my 11th band or band related tattoo, and it's for Ozzy. I love Ozzy, and I'm going to talk about that. So this concert, they announced this concert. It was in January or February, I think, this year. Came from out of nowhere. It's amazing that something of this magnitude could be held under wraps for, you know, I mean, this must have been in the works for months and months. And usually when something like this happens, you would have heard rumors about it before. At least I would. And I think I'm pretty... I follow, you know, music pretty closely, and I know what's going on in the world of metal and rock. I don't get everything, but never heard any rumors. And then this came out of nowhere. I saw it on Facebook one day, and it was amazing because often when I see things, you know, it shows the time that was posted. Often I see it like posted, you know, 14 hours ago or something, or 2 hours ago. But when I saw this, it was at the top of my feed. And it said posted, it was either just now or like 1 minute ago. I think it was just now. And I was like, am I seeing this right? And I didn't, you know, at first glance, I thought, what the hell is going on? Is this back to the beginning? And I was kind of reading it and trying to make sense of it. Is this like a concert coming up? Is it in the studio, but they're live streaming it or something? And then I started seeing all the band names, Metallica and you know, Slayer and Pantera, Guns N' Roses. I thought, what the hell is going on? Couldn't really make sense of it. So I took a minute to read it. I thought, wow, this is pretty amazing. But my first thought was, to be honest, was pretty negative. I thought, man, you know, with everything that Ozzy has been through in the last God knows how many years, you know, and he's canceled shows and appearances and tours for the last many years because of his health. He's got Parkinson's and other problems as well. And I thought, how can he really do this? And I thought, well, I guess so. You know, they're announcing it, and they made it very clear that this is the final Black Sabbath concert. And, you know, a lot of bands play the farewell card. It's become such a cliche to do a farewell tour or something like that. Slayer, most recently. The Who is doing it again, although I think the Who will call it quits because they're so old. And I thought, this for sure, this will be the last Black Sabbath concert, or Black Sabbath with Ozzy. Maybe. I doubt that Black Sabbath is going to do anything with, you know, they're not going to do a show with Ian Gillan or something. So I thought, wow, this is really going to happen. This is the last Black Sabbath show, which I already thought happened in 2016 or 17, also in Birmingham, or as they say in that country, Birmingham. But I thought, all right, well, this is the last concert, maybe a little bit anticlimactic, and because I thought it's kind of maybe disappointing too to people that went to that last concert in 2016 or 17, thinking, oh, I'm going to the last Black Sabbath concert. And then this maybe takes some of the luster, some of the shine, some of the sheen away from your experience if you were at the Birmingham show in 2016 or 17. But anyway, so I immediately texted my good friend Monty, who I've mentioned many times in these videos, and told him about it. And he said, there's no way that's going to happen. He said, Ozzy's going to cancel. And this guy is... Monty's word is the word of the word of Ozzy, the word of, you know, whoever you hold in high regard. That's what Monty's word is. This guy is so much more knowledgeable about music and concerts and behind the scenes doings than I am. And he said, "There's no way this is going to happen." I said, "No, it will, man. You know, they wouldn't make such a big deal. They wouldn't have Metallica, Slayer, Guns N' Roses, Pantera, Alice in Chains if it was 100% sure." If it wasn't 100% sure going to happen. And he said, nah, I just can't see it happening. And then that over the, I don't know, sometime kind of, you know, turned to, well, it'll happen, but maybe Ozzy won't play. And then it kind of became, well, he'll play, but, you know, he's going to be doing it. Maybe he's going to be doing it from home or from the studio and, you know, something like that. Anyway, so it did happen. And I have to say, it was I loved it. To get right to the point, I really loved it. It really made an impression on me. It was incredibly well done. There were very few hiccups, either technically or musically. There are some. I'll talk about some of those. But this had potential to be disastrous, and it was not. It was very well done. And also, you know, you think, wow, all these bands, and not just bands, but they have these interludes with these, whatever you want to call them, all-star bands, and how are they going to, you know, get everybody on one stage? That was okay because they had this revolving stage on a turntable. while one band was playing, I guess they were kind of behind the scenes. There was a divider setting the drums up for the next band. I think there was only about 7 or 8 or 9 minutes between each band, and in that time they filled it quite nicely, which I will also talk about. I will give, and I think everybody should give. A lot of people don't like Tom Morello. You know, people love to say, oh, he plays in Rage for the Machine. You know, he's such a hypocrite. He's full of shit, Tom Morello. You know, he's a corporate guy. Everybody, if you're a Black Sabbath fan or an Ozzy fan, you should forget about that and just thank whoever you want to thank for Tom Morello, because he curated the whole thing. He put it all together, obviously with many other people too, but he was called, his title I think was given the title of musical director. And man, I would love to talk to that guy, as I'm sure many people would, to see what went on, how everything came to be. I'm very curious about the song protocol. Like, was there any rule about, we don't want any songs repeated, but then there were a couple that were repeated, but then maybe the rule was now maybe just whatever songs Black Sabbath is doing or Ozzy, nobody can do it. Those are untouchable. And I thought, how do they decide, what goes into each band deciding what song to do? Are they going to do Ozzy, Black Sabbath? I also didn't know. I think when I first heard about this, I thought my impression was all the bands were going to be doing all Black Sabbath sets. They were going to play. And I thought some of the sets were longer than I thought when they finally announced the set times the day or two before. They were longer than I thought. I thought they were going to be like 15, 20 minutes maximum. I mean, for even the big bands. And I thought maybe some of the earlier bands, the bands who were playing first, lower on the bill, I thought they'd be just playing 5-10 minutes, 2 songs maybe. Some did play 2 songs. And I thought, oh man, how are they going to do all that? But they did it, and it was very successful. And let me check my notes here. I want to make sure I hit all my points and don't forget anything. Yeah, man, Tom Morello, give it to him. This guy, again, along with other people, really put everything together. I can't imagine what went into that, even before it was announced. Obviously, as I said, they've been working on this for many months before, and amazing that it didn't get spilled with all the people involved. It's amazing that, and if there were rumors, maybe there were, I don't know everything, but if there were rumors, I didn't hear any, and none of the people like my friend Monty, who are much more knowledgeable and much more in tune with that, nobody knew anything. Now, over time, and I noticed especially in the days before, it did turn from more of, I thought this was like a Black Sabbath thing. It became more of an Ozzy thing than a Black Sabbath thing, although it kind of was at the beginning. And I think Ozzy's, when they announced it, the reason for doing this, of course, everybody's going to say money, retirement. They need retirement money, and they want to pad their bank accounts as if there's something wrong with people making money, as long as you do it ethically, I guess. And as it turns out, that it was all for charity. I don't know about that. I don't know if I believe that. I'm sure there was some money. I'm sure at least the band's expenses were paid. I don't think that, Hailstorm was paying, to schlep all their stuff over there, or anybody. So I'm sure the bands had their stuff paid for, but according to them, all proceeds, both from the live stream and the concert, merch, I guess, everything, all went to charity. And there were some commercials in the live stream, not commercials, but little videos for a children's hospital in Birmingham, I'm going to call it. So that was good. So that was okay. But yeah, the Ozzy thing, it switched from in the I think the day before the concert, in the live stream, I clicked just to see how much the live stream was and what the the protocol and everything was. And it was strange because it had, I think it was on blacksabbath.com, but the link, it also had a link to Ozzy.com. And there was something that said it was delayed by 2 hours. The live stream had a 2-hour delay, which was, my first thought was, they're doing that to fix up any, to give a 2-hour window or cushion to fix up any egregious errors or cut anything out that they don't want there. But I don't know if too much was cut out. Quite a few mistakes that were not cut out. But and in the description of live stream, it said, to explain or to justify the 2-hour delay, it said in order to be fair to Ozzy's fans, it didn't say Black Sabbath fans, to Ozzy's fans worldwide, we are delaying it by 2 hours from live. I'm not sure, maybe they didn't want spoilers for people in the stadium. I don't know. I really don't know, but yeah, and there were a couple of other things that seemed to me that it was more of an, and there's nothing wrong with this, that it was more of an Ozzy thing than a Black Sabbath thing. And Ozzy did say, I think when this was first announced, he said one of the reasons why he wanted to do it, and I believe him. Ozzy seems like a pretty genuine guy. Maybe his wife and manager, it's the same person. Maybe not so much, but I think Ozzy's a pretty genuine guy. And who knows, when you see anything, unless it's Ozzy actually speaking, if it's just in print or words, I don't know how much of that comes from him. But he said he wanted to play one last concert. It was important for him to play one last concert with Bill Ward, specifically, not just Black Sabbath. But so that was good that he did that. Now, speaking of Ozzy's wife / manager, Sharon, something that I guess I don't really like, because this almost got to the point where it was going to overshadow the concert. I'm sure y'all know what this is. There was apparently a band that Sharon said, this was maybe a month before the concert, and Sharon said that she kicked the band off the bill, or it was kind of weird. I think at first she said, I kicked them off the bill, but she didn't say who it was. You thought, well, that should be pretty easy to find out who it is. You just have to look at the poster, look at the lineup, and whoever is missing, they're gone. But it seems that the band was never officially confirmed, but they were in talks to appear at the concert, and she booted them off the bill because she had a big row with their manager, because apparently this mystery band, wanted to get paid for it. Nobody else asked to get paid, but this mystery band. And she said that's not in the spirit of the event. This is not about money. This is about Ozzy and Black Sabbath and the fans and everything. So she said she got into this big fight with the manager, and the manager was very mean to her, and she said she hadn't felt this bad in years. And so the band is gone. So of course, everybody started speculating. At first it was speculated that it was Tool, because I think at one point shortly after that, Tool's name was missing from some of the images, but then apparently that was an oversight. And then recently, I think it was after the concert. Oh, and then Sharon also said, I'm going to make an announcement after the concert. I guess she didn't want to, and good for her if this is true, and I'm not sure how much of this is true. She said, she'd make an announcement after the concert. She didn't say she would bring it up in an interview. She called it an announcement. And good that, that wasn't going to take away anything from the concert, because I think that would have been pretty bad. Everybody would have been more gossipy about this mystery band, or at that point it wouldn't have been a mystery. So I think it was a couple days after the concert, or maybe it was I think it was the day after the concert. There was a pretty big rumor or speculation that it was Soundgarden, and right away I thought, how the fuck can it be Soundgarden? They're not even, at least as far as I knew, not even a band anymore. Or they haven't been a band since Chris Cornell died in 2015, I think it was 15 or 16. And so I thought, how can it be Soundgarden? And first of all, Sharon said, you're not going to believe who this band was. She said, you're going to be shocked. That was her word. She said, you're going to be shocked. And I thought, okay, so I don't think Soundgarden would be that shocking. The first two things that came up to my mind, when she said it's shocked, I thought two things. That means it's a really, really big band. It's not a band, like Rival Sons or Hailstorm or something. Nothing against them, and also probably a band that had a close connection with Ozzy that people would expect to be at the show, and so you would be shocked that this band wasn't at the show. And she said she's going to make this announcement after the concert. So it's been as I'm recording this, it's Monday, and so this concert was 8 days ago, and she hasn't said anything. And I said to my friend when she said that, I think it was also to Monty, I said, this is going to be like a Donald Trump thing. That guy says everything is 2 weeks. I'm going to make an announcement in 2 weeks. I'm going to make a new deal in 2 weeks. I'm going to have a new policy in 2 weeks. And then you never hear shit about it. I said, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it is. So whether this actually happened or not, and Soundgarden also just wouldn't make sense because, well, for one, they don't seem like that kind of band. Two, they're not a band. So I don't think it was them. And then very interesting, I think it was just yesterday or 2 days ago, Soundgarden, again, who's not a band, they posted on their Instagram, they kind of addressed, they didn't directly address the rumor, but they said, you know, something like, we're so happy for Black Sabbath, and what a great time it was, and we send our love to Ozzy and Sharon and Black Sabbath, and we thank you for the invitation. So okay, they're basically denying it was them without outright saying that it wasn't them. Also, I thought it was very interesting. I think now that Matt Cameron just left Pearl Jam, which devastates me. That's horrible. I'm the biggest Pearl Jam fan, and Matt Cameron, I think, is a big part of Pearl Jam, and I was devastated to learn he was stepping down a few days before the concert. So now those two things combined, that makes me think that, well, why was Matt Cameron stepping down? Is he retired? Was he not happy in the band? And he had been in Pearl Jam for 27 years. And so I think that Matt Cameron stepping down, why is that? And now Soundgarden, kind of putting it out there. I think that Soundgarden is, in some form, is going to be back soon. All right, but I will, and maybe I'll do a video of that when it happens in 6 months or 2 months or something. And I know about Sharon's reputation. I know most people, at least fans, don't like her. She's very caustic and abrasive, but Ozzy has said it, and you can just kind of see she is the one. She's his manager and his wife. She is the one, and people say, well, she wheels him out there like Weekend at Bernie's or something. But I think Ozzy has said he would be dead if not for his wife, for Sharon. And you never know if that's true, but I believe that Ozzy really believes that, and I think it's true. Sharon is the one that kind of keeps or has kept Ozzy in the spotlight and kept him active for many, many years. So I will give Sharon big credit for that. Now, another thing about the live stream, I think this is one of the things that whether, I don't know if it's Sharon directly or the organizers in the bigger picture, were full of shit about. They announced, when they first announced this in January, February, the first thing everybody said was, oh my God, if you read the comments in any post, whether this was posted on Blabbermouth or Black Sabbath's official social media, Ozzy's official social media, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, anybody, every comment was, is this going to be streamed? Can we watch it? Where can we watch it? We want to watch it. Let's all watch it. And months went by and nothing happened. And I think it was only about a month before the concert where they said, we've listened to your demands, and yes, it's going to be live streamed. Bullshit. I think there's no way. That was probably one of the first things they talked about was, okay, let's do the concert, and we're going to live stream it, right? So it's a minor thing, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't know why they, and I'm speculating, I don't know why they keep that such a secret and make it look like, yeah, the fans demanded it, and we listened to you. I guess that's why they're doing it, to make the fans feel like they are influencers. But yeah, I think that the live stream, that was clearly discussed long before probably this event was ever even announced. And I think that's it. Before I get to the actually talking about the bands, did I miss anything? Oh, now one thing, and maybe I could have said this at the end, because this was happening during the course of the concert. I'm going a little bit off topic here. Too many chicks on their guys' shoulders. Stop it, as Mike Wilbon says. Stop it. I was tired of that. Whether, I don't know if it's a trend or what it is. In the 90s, I was saying that it's just such a stupid thing, and it's even worse now, more egregious now, that everybody's got their phone, recording everything, and there's cameras everywhere, and it's especially this when it's on. We used to call it pay-per-view. Now it's a live stream. And so all these girls are, I guess, desperate to be the center of attention, so they go up on their boyfriend's shoulders or their friend's shoulders, and they hoist them up, and they're, going like this and waving scarves around or whatever. And it shouldn't, but it bothers me that much. Although I think maybe a little bit more than that. It's just so. Have a good time, please. Bang your head, dance, jump around. Don't throw stuff, but also don't go on anybody's shoulders. I really don't like that. I think it's a bad look. But it's, I guess, a long-standing tradition that will never stop, despite my protests. All right? And one last thing before I get to the concert. I feel like, and I'm obviously not the first person to think this, this is setting the tone, I'm sure. Bands, as they this is going to be the new farewell tour, because I think everybody's getting tired of the farewell tour card bullshit, playing the farewell tour. And so I think this is going to be kind of a new thing that bands are going to do. Because, when Black Sabbath originally did this, and Kiss too, their last concerts, they weren't any different than, they did a tour, they played this city, this city, this city, they went for months and months, they traveled around, then this was the last concert, and instead of taking a year off, doing a new album and then touring again in a couple of years, they stopped. This obviously draws a lot more attention to them. If they had just live streamed the last show of the End tour in 2016 or 17, I mean, people would have liked it, but it wouldn't have had the goodwill. And that this whole concert had a very, very, very amazing vibe to it. Everybody seemed, bands and fans, I think, seemed very, very happy with it. And I'm sure they made way more money from it, whether it goes to charity or not, and I don't doubt that it is. But in the future, I think this is going to be the thing. And I think Kiss must be kicking themselves now that they didn't think of that. Although it's never too late with Kiss or anybody else. Maybe the Who is going to do it. And Gene and Paul will likely, claim ownership to it. We were the first ones to do this goodbye concert. This, if that happens. But I think this is not going to be the last. And maybe it feels more final too. All right. So getting to the actual concert now. This is going to be long, all right? I'm going to talk about every band, and I'm going to try to keep it mostly to the Black Sabbath and Ozzy stuff. I'm not going to go through all the songs that I don't know why I keep using Hailstorm as an example. I'm not going to talk about what Hailstorm songs they did, only the Black Sabbath songs, all right? Maybe with a few exceptions. So Mastodon played first. I think good choice for Mastodon to play first. And I'm not a big Mastodon fan. I've bought 2 or 3 of their records, CDs, never really got into them, but some of their stuff I really do like. I do appreciate them. I think their music is very cool and unique. They have a great look. They got 3 lead singers, which is pretty cool. But I'm not, when I say I'm not a big Mastodon fan, that's not to say that I dislike them. It's just that I'm not familiar with them enough. But I thought they were excellent. They looked great. They sounded great. They played, I think, 3 songs. They opened with, the Black Sabbath song they did was Supernaut. I can't remember. No, that wasn't their opening song. They played 2 songs of their own. I think Blood and Thunder and can't remember what else. But yeah, they played Supernaut, which was excellent. They had this that percussion breakdown in the middle of it with Danny Carey. And the other 2 guys, when I was writing my notes, I didn't know who they were. I guess they obviously played later. I didn't go back and find out, but it was Danny Carey and 2 other guys. Danny Carey from Tool. They had like some snare drums set up in the middle of the stage in front of the drums, just like Metallica did on the Hardwired tour in the middle section of Now That We're Dead, when the four Metallica guys all played drums like that. That was pretty cool. And it was instrumental. When they first started playing Supernaut, it was instrumental. I thought, man, what are they doing? This, you're the first one and you're not even going to sing it. And then the drummer, Braun, he sang the last verse, which was pretty cool. And I noticed he had, I assume it was on his snare drum right in front of him, he had the lyrics written on the snare drum. I mean, there was a lot of writing on the snare drum. I assume it was lyrics. I thought that was pretty cool. I also started to do, what I was going to do was write all the Black Sabbath shirts that all the musicians were wearing. I think I kind of forgot about that after some time. But I'll mention it where I noted. Troy Sanders and Braun were wearing Black Sabbath shirts as Mastodon played. Now, as I said, they did a very good job of filling the time between the bands, which was only 7 or 8 or 9 minutes or something. So they had all these little pre-recorded things, some of which, some of them were better than others. The first one was they had a bunch of, and this was the chorus through the whole night, some fan testimonials. These were just 15 seconds, although one guy had like 40 seconds. I was watching, I thought, this is really long, and I went back and I looked at it, yeah, it was 40 seconds. So they had these short 15-second fan testimonials. I mean, it's better than just looking at the screen saying whatever band is playing next. So I thought that was pretty cool. They did get better. The breaks between bands did get a little bit better. The second band to play was Rival Sons. As far as I know, I saw somewhere that they, because I thought, you know, what is, and I saw Rival Sons open for Black Sabbath on the End Tour in 2016 in Mexico City, and they were pretty good. I really don't know anything. I don't know if I've ever heard any of their studio songs, but I remember they were pretty good live, and they did at least two of them. The singer, Jay Buchanan, he's the only guy whose name I know, and the guitarist, they did an amazing, stellar cover of Hopelessly Devoted to You by Olivia Newton-John from Greece. Like in it looked like they were in a library or something. It was like a studio or something. I don't know when that was, 8, 6, 7 years ago or something. Loved it. And I think, man, this guy, Jay Buchanan, has an amazing voice. I feel like I should check out Rival Sons. But anyway, they were, oh yeah, what I was going to say was, as far as I know, because I was thinking some of these, and I'll maybe mention this, some of the bands I was thinking, what's their connection to Black Sabbath? They're bands or artists. I mean, Metallica, obviously, and, you know, Slayer and Pantera. But I thought, what is Rival Sons, other than the fact that they opened for Black Sabbath on their last tour? What association do they have with Black Sabbath? And I read that apparently they were there at Tony Iommi's request. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but apparently Tony Iommi is a big fan of Rival Sons. Yeah, and I thought their music, the Rival Sons music, I think it's okay. But man, the singer, Jay Buchanan, that guy can really sing. Great song. I mean, great voice. And the Black Sabbath song they did was Electric Funeral. This is one of only 2 repeats, because Pantera also did Electric Funeral much later in the day. And Electric Funeral was excellent. All right. Next, there was another intermission, and it showed the first one of this series, I guess, called Sounds of Birmingham. And they featured a band called Meat Dripper. And it's just, they show, you know, the singer or whoever from Meat Dripper talking, and they show them in the studio and things like that. Just a short clip, 2 minutes, maybe less than 2 minutes. And then there was a Def Leppard testimonial, the 5 of them, all, you know, saying, hello, Black Sabbath, thank you, and wish we could be there, things like that. And then more of these 15-second fan testimonials. Next was Anthrax. Man, I love Anthrax. Kind of. No, I do love Anthrax. I have some big problems with Anthrax, but overall I do love them. They're one of my favorites. I thought they were quite low on the bill, and maybe that suited them better. I thought, like, Anthrax is playing before, like, using again Hailstorm. I thought they were playing before Hailstorm, and I don't know. Well, I don't know. That doesn't matter. And they only did 2 songs. They did. Now they were all wearing. This is one minor thing that I don't really like about Anthrax. They wear like uniforms. They're all wearing the same thing. I know Faith No More did that on their reunion tour. They all wore like white suits. And Anthrax, when they played the Big 4 show at Yankee Stadium, they were all wearing these Yankee/Anthrax themed shirts. And they've done that before. And so they were all wearing, I know it's a minor thing. I'm not really complaining about it, but it's just a little thing that I thought, I don't really care for that. They were all wearing shirts that had the Sabbath Bloody Sabbath font. And they said Sabbath Bloody Anthrax. And then on the back, each of them had, I never did see what's his name? Jonathan Donaze? I never saw it was on the back of his shirt. So each guy in Anthrax had the corresponding member of Black Sabbath. So Joey had Ozzy on the back of his shirt, 666 in the Sabbath Bloody Sabbath font. Scotty Ian had Iommi. Charlie had Ward. Frank Bello had Geezer or Butler. I don't know what it said. I don't know what Jonathan Donaze had. But, minor thing. But yeah, that was, I think, kind of goofy. I thought Joey Belladonna sounded great. You know what I don't like about, a small thing I don't like about Anthrax, or it's Scott Ian. You know, over the years, he's become their spokesperson, their frontman. You know, he plays guitar, but Joey Belladonna doesn't really address the crowd. It's always Scott Ian. And he's kind of the typical meathead guy, or meathead metal guy. You know, he talks to the crowd. He's you know, yelling and fucking Birmingham, you're the fucking best. Let me see the fucking horns up that. That just and there's somebody else I'm gonna talk about who does that too, much more egregiously and much more annoyingly than Scott Ian. But I mean, as a performer, I love Scott Ian. And they played Into the Void. Into the Void is one of my favorite Black Sabbath songs. It's the last song on Masters of Reality. And it was great. But I don't know what happened with Joey Belladonna. Like I said, his voice sounds great, but he wasn't singing the words. Like, it was very, very hard to figure out, because he definitely wasn't singing the words, but he also wasn't just going na, 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 na. He was singing words, but they weren't the words to the song. I don't know if he rewrote it or if somebody rewrote it, but I thought, yeah, I thought, man, you only have one song. You're just doing one song. You had months to prepare for it. You should know what it is. And there was a teleprompter there. Every band had access to the teleprompter, and Joey was kind of stationed in front of it for a good part of the song. And it looked like he was kind of looking down at it. He was singing like this. He wasn't wearing sunglasses like a lot of them. And you could see him, and I thought, what the hell is he reading? Anyway, so that was it. And one other thing, speaking of meathead guys, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. Jason Momoa hosted the whole thing. And I like him. I mean, good for him that he's a metal fan. Everybody loves, metal fans love when you see these big Hollywood stars or politicians or people from outside the music world or the metal world, when they embrace our music. I think we really like that. So good for him. But I think he's a little bit also of a, oh, that was fucking awesome. Give it up for fucking Anthrax, fucking Birmingham. Yeah, you fucking rock. A little bit too much, I think, and I'll mention Jason Momoa a little bit later too, when I talk about one of the other bands. I don't know, just a little bit, tone it down a little bit too much for me. Next was, another of the Sounds of Birmingham little vignettes, I think they call them, with a band called Margarita Witch Cult. And then there was a Marilyn Manson testimonial. Hey Ozzy, hey Black Sabbath, thank you for all your music, and I wish I could be there, blah blah blah. And then more fan testimonials. And then it's Halestorm. God, I've mentioned them like 19 times already. I had never heard a note of Halestorm's music before, and I probably never will. I just don't like them. I can't really say anything bad about them. No, I can kind of say something bad about them, or about one of them anyway. It's just not my kind of music. I've known the name Halestorm for many years, and I know the singer is Lizzie Hale without the I. It's L-Z-Z-Y. It's just not my kind of music. Now one thing that, and maybe I'm easily annoyed, or maybe I'm just looking for things to talk about to make this video longer. The drummer, oh my God, what a goofy drummer. Remember that guy Zoltan Chaney that used to play drums for Vince Neil? And he was always like, hitting the drums and his sticks bounce up and he's dragging them in the air and he's throwing the sticks in the air and, just, I don't like it. I find, it's good to be out there and, to be a showman and, maybe be the center of attention, but I just found too much. Again, a minor thing, but yeah, I didn't really like them. Now, one thing that I can say great about Halestorm, I was working the day of this concert. I was working all day. And so I couldn't, I wasn't going to watch the live stream anyway, but, I had my friend Monty and another friend John, and John, I hope you're watching this. I think you're watching this. Were texting me, and I kind of texted back when I could, when I had a few seconds or a few minutes away from work. And so they were texting me, and my friend Monty, he said, Halestorm is doing, or just did, Perry Mason by Ozzy. And he said, of all the Ozzy songs and all the Black Sabbath songs they could do, why would they choose Perry Mason? I was the opposite. I thought that was great. I don't really like Perry. It's okay. There's a million songs, Ozzy songs, that I like better than Perry Mason. But I thought I really like that. That's very unpredictable, very different, very unique. So good for them that Halestorm chose something that you would never expect. Next, another one of these Sounds of Birmingham video vignettes. It was, I guess, a company called Coffin Works. They made like coffin fittings or coffin accessories, things like that. And then a testimonial from Billy Idol, and then more fan testimonials. Next, musically, was Lamb of God. This band fucking sucks. I really, really don't like Lamb of God at all. Specifically, I don't like Randy Blythe, the singer. They're another band that, I guess, by the time they kind of became, by the time they came on my radar, I was, I guess, well into my 30s, and maybe I was over, new music or that kind of music or something, and I just didn't like them. But Randy Blythe, you know, I mentioned Scott Ian and Jason Momoa being kind of meatheadish. Randy Blythe is like next level meathead. Really, really, really off-putting for me. He is probably the reason why a lot of people love Lamb of God. He's the opposite for me. This guy is just such a Phil Anselmo, total Phil Anselmo clone. And I love Phil Anselmo, but I think the difference for me is anyway, well, one, I like Pantera. I love Pantera's music, one of my favorites. And I think Phil also has a lot of charm. He's a very, very charming guy. To me, Randy Blythe has none of the charm that Phil Anselmo has. He's just like I remember something he said. We're Lamb of God from, where are they from? Roanoke, Virginia, or Wheeling, West Virginia, something like that. Let's say Roanoke, Virginia. He said, "We're Lamb of God from Roanoke, fucking Virginia." I'm not against cursing. I curse, but you get to a point where if you just, you know, if you pepper your conversation or your talk too much with fucking this and fucking that, you just sound like a moron. And I thought it kind of bothers me too, because I think maybe, you know, people like Randy Blythe are the reason why metal fans had the reputation, and maybe it's not as bad as it was some time ago, but the reputation of being morons, you know, cavemen, illiterate, can't really express themselves, can't really talk. Like, I don't think you'll see Taylor Swift fans, you know, referring to her as, "Oh, Taylor fucking Swift fucking rules. She's from Tulsa, fucking Oklahoma." I don't know. Yeah, I really, and just the way he, and Phil Anselmo does this too, but again, I can accept it more with Phil Anselmo. He's always got the scowl on his face, and he's stalking the stage like, I guess like Phil Anselmo used to do too. And I don't think I've ever seen Randy Blythe with anything other than a black t-shirt and black shorts or camouflage shorts. Yeah, really, really don't like Lamb of God. I guess I could say I can tolerate the music, but Randy Blythe just totally kills that band for me. Everything is fucking motherfuckers. And they did Children of the Grave, and it was okay. It was good. I love Children of the Grave. Next is more. Now it's kind of the same thing, the testimonials and the fans, everything, but a little bit different order. This time they started with the fan testimonials, then The Sounds of Birmingham, which was about a place called House of Thieves. I think it's a tattoo shop. It is a tattoo shop. And then more fan testimonials, and then another Sounds of Birmingham vignette about the home of metal. I guess Birmingham being the home of metal. Next was the first. I guess I don't know if they call these Tom Morello's All-Stars, Tom Morello All-Stars, or Supergroup A and Supergroup B. This is pretty cool. I guess especially, and my friends John and Kevin, and somebody else were sending me messages. Oh, this guy is playing with this guy. So they did how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It seems that it was 5 songs with kind of like a rotating cast of musicians, and I've got them all here. This is why it took me so long, and I was trying to write this down, but also trying to enjoy it, so I paused it while I was writing. That's why it took me 8 days to watch this. So the first one was Lizzie Hale from Hailstorm. Jake E. Lee. Oh, I should talk about Jake E. Lee, man. He, for me, was the I don't know if he was the star of this show. He was the one that I was most excited about. When I saw everybody who was appearing, bands and musicians, Jake E. Lee had like these flashing lights on. I thought, oh, this is fucking awesome, man. I love Jake E. Lee. I love Badlands. I love the 2 Ozzy albums he played on. I saw him on both of those tours. I saw him on the Bark of the Moon tour and the Ultimate Sin tour. I saw him in Badlands. Nobody looks cooler on a stage playing guitar than Jake E. Lee. Nobody. So I thought, oh, that was, and you know, he had a real falling out with Ozzy and Sharon, and you know, it was very acrimonious. So I thought that was really good. And he got shot recently too, so I was very, very happy that Jake E. Lee was playing. So the first, so it was Lizzie Hale, Jake E. Lee, Nuno Betancourt, another guy who looks really cool playing guitar, except he has to use nail polish and tattoos to accomplish it. But he looks pretty cool too. I really like Nuno Betancourt too. He was maybe on stage, in terms of total time, maybe Nuno was on stage more than anybody. Of all the bands. Oh yeah, Nuno. Oh, I was very also happy to see Mike Borden, Puffy from Faith No More. I'm a huge, massive Faith No More fan. Puffy was on drums, Dave Ellefson on bass from Megadeth, and Adam Wakeman, was on keyboards. This was kind of strange because they were all ready to play. Lizzie, Nuno, Puffy, Dave Ellefson, and Adam Wakeman. They were all on the stage, ready to play. And then one of them, I think it was Lizzie Hale, said on the mic, "Where's Jake? Where's Jakey Lee?" And everybody was looking around going, "Hey, where is he? He's not here." And that was my first indication of, is this going to be, the first kind of disaster? And yeah, he came out, maybe he was 30 seconds late or something. I thought that was, I don't know what that was. Maybe we'll hear about that somewhere down the road, why he was late, but he was late. Maybe he was just being a rock star. And they did the Ultimate Sin, which was pretty cool. Actually, I really liked the Ultimate Sin. Next was, now they made some trades here. Lizzie Hale left the stage, replaced by Dave Draymond, who I'm going to talk about. And Nuno left, so there was just Jakey Lee. And they did Shot in the Dark. All right, now, I saw, while I was working that day, I was kind of, when I had a few seconds, I was, browsing around, and I saw, I don't know if it was on Metal Injection or Loudwire or Blabbermouth, something, one of these metal websites, it said that David Draymond was booed. And I thought, good. I think I hate, and I know it's strong to say hate, but whatever. For lack of a better word, I can't stand David Draymond. Hate him. I mentioned this when I saw Disturbed open for Iron Maiden in Mexico City in November last year. First of all, I don't like Disturbed's music, but I think I'm pretty good at separating the person from the music. There's some bands that I don't like, but I think, you know what, that guy, I don't like his music, but I think he's a good guy. He seems like a nice guy or somebody who's interesting or something. So I don't like Disturbed's music at all. I don't like David Draymond's singing voice at all. And he's just I hate the word, but he's a douche, just such a douchebag. I feel like everything he says just grinds on my nerves. Is it grinds on my nerves or grates on my nerves? I don't know. I hate his look. I hate his shaved head. And Scott Ian has a shaved head. And I love Scott Ian, and many people have shaved heads. Maynard Keenan has a shaved head too. A lot of shaved heads at this show. Maybe there should be more. But so I thought, oh, cool. And I thought they were booing because David Draymond sucks. But what I only found out, I don't know if it was later that night or the next day, and I had no idea about David Draymond's personal feelings towards anything, politically, socially, or anything. But I discovered that, I guess fairly recently, there was I guess a picture of him signing some bombs. These were bombs in Israel that were going to be dropped on who knows, on kids, on innocent people, and everybody in Palestine. I don't care about Palestine. I don't care about Israel. I don't know why people have to take sides for that. I don't know why you can't just say fuck both of them. They should just, Donald Trump would tell them, just cut it out and that'll end the war. And I had no idea that David, I don't think I even knew that he was Jewish. I really don't follow Disturbed or David Draymond. It turns out that I guess he's a pretty radical, maybe that's too strong to say, he has very strong ties, I guess, and very strong opinions to Israel. And so this picture of him signing the bomb, and again, I don't care about what's happening in that part of the world, but when you sign bombs, when you sign, something that is designed to kill hundreds of people like that, you look like a fucking asshole. And it would have been the same if he had been signing bombs that were going to be dropped on Israel. Well, I guess he wouldn't do that. But if any musician, any celebrity was signing bombs that were going to be dropped on any country, I'd say you're an asshole. Like you're trying to, get your face out there. It's like you think it is a photo opportunity for you to sign something that's going to kill probably more innocent people than military for sure. Anyway, so it turns out that they were booing him because of that. I'm going to talk about David Draymond for a couple of minutes. Now, in the interim, since from the time the concert ended to now, my feed has been filled because I follow some of these metal sites and I've seen all the stuff about David Draymond. I've gone back and looked at some of the stuff, and yeah, he's very, very pro-Israel. I don't care about that. Good for him. Good for him. Good for him. I don't care about that. But the guy's like Uncle Leo from Seinfeld. He calls everybody. I saw some tweets, I guess, of his in recent months that have made the news. And anybody who not even speaks out against Israel or supports Palestine, but just anybody who says anything like that, he calls them Jew haters, hatred towards Jews. He's like Uncle Leo. You know, Uncle Leo takes a bite of his hamburger, and he takes one bite and he says, "Oh, what is this?" And Jerry says, "Well, what's the problem?" "They overcooked the hamburger." "Oh," Jerry says, "Yeah, it happens." And Uncle Leo says, "No, you know what? I bet the cook is an anti-Semite." Jerry says, "He doesn't even know you. He can't see. He doesn't know who you are. He doesn't know you're Jewish." And Leo says, "You don't just overcook a hamburger." And Jerry delivers one of the great lines. He says, "Well, anyway, as I was saying before Goebbels burned your lunch or burned your burger or something." That was great. So I thought, yeah, David Draymond is, he's Uncle Leo. I think he's a very unreasonable person. And I think what's really, really bad about David Draymond, and if you're a Disturbed fan and you have a problem with people talking about David Draymond, I just think it's so weird that people defend their favorite musicians. It's been well established how much I love Kiss since 1976. And, you know, I love their music, but Gina and Paul are not likable guys. They almost every time they open their mouths, you know, I roll my eyes at the dumb shit that they say. But I know there are some people that, because they love Disturbed's music, they have to, you know, stand with David Draymond. What was I going to say? One more thing about him. Oh yeah, so I've seen all this stuff in my feed about, you know, everybody, all these bands. "Oh, I had the best time. Thank you, Ozzy." This is, you know, on social media. "Thank you, Ozzy." And it was so great to see all these, you know, all our peers and contemporaries and things like that. And everybody is celebrating it. David Draymond is talking shit. I think, as far as I know, I don't follow the guy on social media, but talking about how just really putting the focus on himself. Just a shitty, egotistical, irrational guy. Doesn't, as far as I know, isn't saying anything about Ozzy or Black Sabbath, but saying how people were booing me. They're Jew haters. Anyway, so they played Shot in the Dark, and I guess what happened was, and by the way, I don't like David Draymond's voice. I'm not saying he's a bad singer, and he sang okay. It's not like he made any mistakes or he didn't lose his voice. His voice didn't crack. I just don't like his voice. But they did Shot in the Dark, and at the beginning of the song, in the first line of the song, I think, Jake Ely fucked up. And I think what happened was, and when I first saw it, I thought, I don't know if he fucked up or if I couldn't hear his guitar. Did his guitar go out or did he fuck up or something? But then when I watched it, I think what happened was David Draymond came in early, like maybe one measure earlier with the vocals or the lyrics than they were supposed to. And I guess they had rehearsed it that way, but maybe Jake forgot. Jake was clearly, I don't know if he was pissed or frustrated or like, "Oh, I fucked up," or "Oh, you know, whatever." But he kind of made a motion as he was playing, like, you know, like that. He clearly was bothered by that in some way. Next was Sweet Leaf. So in this one, Jake left the stage. He was replaced by Scott Ian. Nuno came back. And everybody else was the same, including Dave Draymond. I did think he sounded, not at least, I liked his voice. Dave Draymond's voice was better suited for Sweet Leaf than it was for Shot in the Dark. He's still a douche though. Anyway, next was Believer. Oh my God, from Diary of a Madman. I think shockingly, there was very little Diary of a Madman representation. This one, I think only one for sure, which I will talk about. Maybe there was a third one, I can't remember. But, oh man, Diary of a Madman is in my top 10 albums. Love it. But I thought, and this was, by the way, this was, so Deuce Draymond left and he was replaced by Whitfield Crane, who I think I didn't know was appearing. Frank Bello was on bass. And the drummer from Sleep Token, I don't know if I think I'd heard the name Sleep Token before. I had definitely never heard their music. Stupid band. They're like Ghost. They're out there. I assume all. I mean, it was only the drummer. They wear like a mask and a costume and everything. Stop. Yeah, and as I said, one of my favorite songs. I felt it was a little bit slow. It was a little bit plodding, Believer, but still pretty good. Whitfield Crane sounded great and very, looked good too. He had good energy, pretty cool. I'm not really a big Ugly Kid Joe fan. Actually, I'm not a big fan at all. But Whitfield Crane did quite well. Next, for me, one of the highlights at this point, this was the biggest highlight. Maybe as the concert went on, there were more. Another guy I'd never heard of, similar to Sleep Token, a guy called Youngblood, spelled Y-U, as I learned later, Y-U-N-G-B-L-U-D. Very creative to spell it so differently. I guess he's a British guy, like a solo artist. He came out and he did Changes, and it was him, Youngblood, on vocals, Nuno on guitar, Wakeman, Bello. Fantastic. This guy could really, Youngblood could wail. Oh my God, I couldn't believe how good he sounded. Amazing. I have a feeling I wouldn't like his music, but singing Changes was fantastic. I love Changes. Maybe some people don't like it because it's a ballad, but I think Changes is a great song, and Youngblood sang the shit out of it. He was amazing. Nuno added some guitar accents throughout the song, which was okay, but then he played kind of like a ripping, shredding solo, which not that the solo was bad, but I just, maybe that would be great in another song, but I just felt that it seemed very inappropriate for a song like Changes. All right, so that was the end of that supergroup, and then next, oh no, it wasn't another band next, it was, this was a kind of unique thing. It was a pre-recorded video of, it was Jack Black, and it was introduced by Scott Ian's son and Tom Morello's son. They came out on the stage and they introduced it. So it was a pre-recorded video that they had done in a studio with Jack Black, the actor, and Scott Ian's son on bass, Tom Morello's son on guitar. I still don't know who the drummer was. It was another kid, but I have no idea. And they did, I didn't write it. What song did they do? Oh, it was Mr. Crowley. Yeah, they did Mr. Crowley. And they did it kind of true to, Ozzy did this studio session like in 1980 or something with, it was Mr. Crowley, maybe Crazy Train with his band. It was Randy Rhoads and Tommy Aldrich, whoever, I think Bob Daisley. And so Jack Black was wearing, they were basically recreating that. Jack Black was wearing that Ozzy jumper, the blue and white with the tassels. And Tom Morello's son was playing a black polka dot Flying V, just like Randy Rhoads. Jack Black picked him up as he was playing the solo, just like Ozzy would do to Randy Rhoads. That was pretty cool. And I read, I think the next day or a couple days later on Scott Ian's social media, he said that was done in one take, no overdubs, no magic, nothing. I think he said they did several takes, but each take had no overdubs. So that was pretty cool. And I have a quick Jack Black story, very quick. I met Jack Black in, when was this? 2018. Tenacious D was playing a festival in Mexico City, a 2-day festival that Ozzy was headlining the second day. And I had tickets to it. I went to the first night. The second night was Ozzy, Judas Priest, Testament, I think, Marilyn Manson, I can't remember. I sold my ticket to go see Cadaver, who had played the night before. Cadaver was playing at a small club, kind of like a surprise show. I sold my ticket to I missed seeing Ozzy and Judas Priest and Marilyn Manson and Testament to go see Cadaver, which I do not regret. And so I was in Mexico City on this Saturday afternoon, and there's a pizza place called Pizza del Perro Negro, very famous, one of the most famous restaurants, at least pizza places in the country. And you always have to wait for a table. So I was standing outside waiting with my wife at the time. And I was just sitting there waiting. And I saw Jack Black kind of approaching me. And he was on his phone. He had a backpack on. He was on his phone. It looked like he was looking at Google Maps. And he walked past me. And I said, "Hey, Jack Black." And he just looked at me and said, "Hey," he said hello. And he kept walking. That was it. I didn't, say anything to him or ask him for a picture. And then he played with Tenacious D at that festival that night. So that's my Jack Black story. Next was another vignette of The Sounds of Birmingham. It was the Margarita Witch Cult again. This was their second appearance. And then the next band to play was Alice in Chains. And Mike Inez, going back to the shirts. Mike Inez was wearing a, I can't remember if it was a Black Sabbath shirt or an Ozzy shirt. I think it was a Black Sabbath shirt. And couldn't hear Jerry Cantrell's vocals at all. They opened with Man in the Box. And he sings a lot, Jerry Cantrell. Couldn't hear his vocals at all. I don't know if that was a problem in the stadium or in the live stream. I would imagine it would have been on the stage that the problem was. And I'm a big Alice in Chains fan too. And they did, Man in the Box. What was it? They did the Black Sabbath song they did was Fairies Wear Boots, which had kind of a false start. I think Sean Kinney fucked that up. And so they did Fairies Wear Boots, one of my favorite Black Sabbath songs. And yeah, false start. I don't know if Sean Kinney came in a little bit too early or too late. And so they only played a few seconds of it, then they restarted and then they did it properly. They got through it. And you know what? I have to take a break. My neighbor is beckoning me outside. I don't want to take a break. I'm going to lose my mojo. All right, I'm going to take a quick break and come right back. All right, that sucks. Now I have to cut this and splice them together just for a 35-second interruption. Anyway, getting back to Alice in Chains. So yeah, Fairies Wear Boots was false start. Nothing wrong with that. And then it came in and it was great. And I'm trying to think. There was something else. Oh yeah, I wrote a note here that the sound, and I think this was this was definitely in the stream. It disappeared. I guess this was a live stream problem. It was like somebody muted the sound in the live stream during parts of Fairies Wear Boots, which kind of sucks. And also, I guess notable, and nobody really made a big deal of this. Actually, nobody did. I didn't hear any mention of it. This was Sean Kinney's first show back in not that long. I guess it was 6 months ago, maybe. Or maybe it was towards the end of last year. I can't remember. That he had to step away from out. No, I think it was earlier this year. He had some unspecified health issues and had to step away from Alice in Chains to take a break and get himself fixed up, I guess. So this was his first show back. Maybe not a big deal because he wasn't away for very long. And I'm trying to think of what they opened with Man in the Box. They did Fairies Wear Boots, and they did one song. It must have been either Wood or Rooster. I didn't write it down. I think it was Wood, because I think the bass was very quiet when Mike Inez was playing that bass intro. I think it was Wood they did. Anyway, Alice in Chains, Fairies Wear Boots was good. Next, what's up next? Let's see. More of the Sounds of Birmingham. It was Meat Dripper. Was this their second appearance of Meat Dripper? I think it was. Yeah, the very first Sounds of Birmingham was Meat Dripper. And then they were in this one too. And then there was a Cyndi Lauper testimony, which I found kind of peculiar. I don't know what, I'm not judging. I just never knew that she had any kind of association with Ozzy. And then more fan testimonials. And then Gojira was next. They're another band that I really don't know anything about. I know they're quite popular. People love them. I'd heard maybe a song here or two. I guess they're fine. I don't really dislike them, but just not the kind of music that I like. But I was surprised that they kind of looked old, especially the singer. For a band that's relative, I think they've only been around for 10 years or so, maybe less. The singer, I think he had a little bit of gray hair in his beard, or maybe on the side of his head or something. I just thought he, or they, especially the singer, looked a little bit old for a modern band. They had a female singer come out during their second song. Don't know who she was. And then they did Under the Sun. And it was good. Next was more fan testimonials. Sounds of Birmingham vignette again with more kind of fan stuff, but within and by the way, the fan testimonials, all these ones I've talked about so far, they were, I guess they encouraged these, they solicited these for people, maybe had to like buy the live stream in order to be considered. So everybody, took these 15-second testimonials and sent them in, and obviously they couldn't use all of them. Although they repeated towards the end, and they started repeating them, so maybe they did use them all. Oh, and then, another weird one, a Dolly Parton testimonial. That was also very strange. Dolly Parton, she's She's been with Motley Crue recently. That remake of not remake, but with Home Sweet Home with Dolly Parton fucking sucks. Oh my God, that sucks. And I love Home Sweet Home. But Dolly Parton adds nothing to that song. And she's done something with Judas Priest in somewhat recent years too. So yeah, Dolly Parton, Testimonial, and then another Sounds of Birmingham little vignette with, I guess it's a band called Scruffy Murphys. And Murphy was spelled with apostrophe S. Go figure. It's not like the possessive of Murphys. And then more fan testimonials. And then the next musical thing was they called this a drum off. So it was Rudy Sarzo on bass. Cool to see Rudy too. That anybody, especially those old guys that played with Ozzy in the 80s, very cool to see them. So Rudy Sarzo was playing bass, Tom Morello was playing guitar, Nuno was playing guitar, and then there were three drummers: Travis Barker, Chad Smith, and Danny Carey from Tool. Travis Barker from Blink 182, and they did "Symptom of the Universe." I love "Symptom of the Universe," and it was a little bit. They all played at the same time when they were actually doing the song. The three drummers were all playing together, and then they had these kind of little breaks where it would be just one drummer playing, then another drummer playing. There were a little bit of, a few hiccups here and there, but other than that, it was okay. It was good that it didn't go on too long, but it was cool to see. And then there was a Jonathan Davis from Korn testimonial. And then along, the next was, and I felt they could have staggered these a little bit more. No, maybe it's okay. This was another all-star Tom Morello band, whatever you want to call it, all-star B. So the first song was Breaking the Law. Not sure why they did Breaking the Law instead of a Black Sabbath or an Ozzy song, but all right. And there were a couple of other, well, I'll get to that later. So Breaking the Law was KK Downing, which was cool to see him. Man, that guy looks great. He looks old, but he looks great. He looks exactly like he did in 1982, just older. He's got the leather pants, the leather jacket, the long blonde hair, playing the cherry red flying V. Very cool to see KK Downing again. Rudy Sarzo, Adam Jones from Tool. This is all Breaking Law. And Billy Corgan singing. He fucking sucks worse than David Draymond. He fucking blows. Billy Corgan. I don't like Smashing Pumpkins. Their music is okay. I've never liked Billy Corgan's kind of whiny, nasally voice. And like Draymond, he's also a massive douche, just for different reasons. Just Billy Corgan is very, very pompous and pretentious and very full of himself. I really don't like Billy Corgan, and he sucked singing. Again, I can separate, but I don't have to separate here because he is a douche, and his vocals here sucked. He was just kind of screeching, sounded awful. Maybe one of the worst individual performances, I think, was Billy Corgan. And then they did Snowblind by Black Sabbath, but Sammy Hagar, is that right? Sammy Hagar replaced Billy Corgan. Nuno, this was pretty much everybody. Only I think no, sorry, they did sorry, that whole yeah, okay, my notes were a little bit unclear. So the first lineup that I said, Billy Corgan, Adam Jones, KK Downing, and Rudy Sarzo, they did Breaking the Law and Snowblind. Okay? And then I guess everybody but Rudy Sarzo left the stage. And then Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers replaced who was on drums? I didn't write who was on drums for Breaking Law and Snowblind. Billy Corgan, Adam Jones, KK Downing, and Rudy Sarzo. I didn't maybe it was Chad Smith, I don't know. Maybe it was Travis Barker. I missed the drummer. Anyway, so for so the next one, it was Flying High Again from Diary of the Madman. And it was Sammy Hagar singing, Nuno Bettencourt, Vernon Reid making his first appearance. Did he play again? I can't remember. Also on guitar, Chad Smith on drums, and Rudy Sarzo on bass. Sammy Hagar butchered Flying High Again. Horrible, horrible. Now Billy Corgan sucks, but his actual voice sucks. Sammy Hagar's voice was fine. I think he's an excellent singer. I didn't like him in Van Halen at all. Tiny bit. But I do think he's a great singer. But he fucked up all the words. The entire first verse he got wrong. And again, going back to what I said about Joey Belladonna, I don't understand. You had one song and you had months to prepare. You couldn't learn the lyrics. And presumably they already know the song and, you know, at least the melody. And that's why they're doing that song. And he had the teleprompter too, but he stood in, you know, with the teleprompter behind it. Joey Belladonna was singing with the teleprompter in front of him and he was looking at it like that. I don't know why Sammy Hagar did that. But yeah, he really blew it with Flying High again, especially the first verse. I think the chorus, the mama's gonna worry. I think he did okay there. I've been a bad, bad boy. He was okay, probably better than me even. And then maybe the second verse, did he also blow that? I can't remember. Yeah, he butchered it. Then they did Rock Candy. Another one, I'm thinking, man, either do, and there was at least one more instance of this. I think either do a Black Sabbath song or an Ozzy song. I'm not sure why Breaking the Law. And so they did Rock Candy, one of Sammy's songs. I think that's a Montrose song. And he sang that fine. No problems with the lyrics, maybe because it's his song. Oh, and Tom Morello came back and played for this. And something about Vernon Reid, and I always notice this. His picking hand is very weird. He kind of holds his pick. He plays like this. And Zakk Wylde kind of plays like that too. And Marty Friedman. All those guys have weird. I think Vernon Reid more than any of them. They kind of curve their wrists like this, and he plays very, very strange looking. Not a judgment, just pointing that out. Next was Bark at the Moon. So this was Travis Barker, the singer from Ghost, who I will mention in a minute. Nuno Bettencourt, Vernon Reid again. And I didn't say who was on drums. So I assume it was oh no, I did. Yeah, Travis Barker. Yeah, sorry. Travis Barker on drums, the singer from Ghost. Nuno on guitar, Vernon on guitar. I didn't say who was on bass. I don't know. But it's something I noticed that Nuno played the opening riff of Bark the Moon. Great. You know, it's got that kind of extra, that kind of stutter in it. Whereas Vernon Reid, so let me try to sing the riff. This is terrible. I shouldn't be talking about Billy Corgan and anybody else for their bad singing. Although they're professionals. I'm just a guy on YouTube that has 40 people watching this. So you know, the riff, as played originally by Jakey Lee and the way that Nuno played it, which is fantastic, was really chuggy. Vernon Reid was kind of playing underneath it. I don't know if he was cheating or if he was just doing it. He was more like adding accents. It was more like he was missing that. Did I explain that properly? Anyway, yeah, Bark at the Moon was great. I love that song. Nuno ripped the solo, was great. But I thought it was, I thought, man, Jakey Lee is somewhere watching this. But I read that he couldn't play that song because I guess he has arthritis now too. And Bark at the Moon was just too difficult for him. Because then Jakey Lee, I think Bark at the Moon is probably his signature song. So it's too bad that we couldn't see Jakey Lee play his signature song, Bark at the Moon. But I love that song. Next was, oh yeah, and the singer from Ghost. I don't like Ghost. I know a lot of people hate them. I don't hate them. You know, put them in the same category as, I don't know, whoever. I don't dislike them. I mean, yeah, I don't dislike them, but I definitely don't like them either. But man, the singer, I wrote the notes here. He came out and he asked the crowd, "Are you ready to rock?" Like it's 1981 or something. Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to bark? You know, before they played Bark at the Moon. Just seemed very cheesy. I get tired of singers asking questions. Are you having a good time? How are we doing so far? That's Paul Stanley Loves. Do you feel good? That's James Hetfield. Do you feel good? Do you feel alive? How's everybody tonight? I don't like all the questions. Stop interrogating the audience. And don't ask me if I'm ready to rock. Damn it! Okay, so Vernon Reid and the singer from Ghost left. And then Andrew Watt came out, and Andrew Watt produced and I think co-wrote maybe all the songs on Ozzy's last two albums. He also produced the last Pearl Jam album. So there was Andrew Watt on guitar. Ronnie Wood, I think Ronnie Wood was another. I had no idea that was taking part in this concert until that day. I saw it, or maybe the next day I saw people, posting pictures of Ronnie Wood. And I didn't know that Ronnie Wood had any association with Black Sabbath or Ozzy. But cool to see Ronnie Wood. And Steven Tyler, this is another one of, so at this point, so Vernon, so Andrew Wood, Ronnie Wood, Steven Tyler. I'm not sure who was on drums. I think maybe it was still Chad Smith. And who was on bass? Maybe Andrew Watt was. No, Andrew Watt was playing guitar. Who played bass? I can't remember. Steven Tyler, I think I only knew the day before that he was there, and I thought, again, weird. What association does he have with Black Sabbath? And I'm very slow sometimes. I think it was only the next day I thought, hold on. I thought Steven Tyler couldn't sing anymore because Aerosmith, I guess it was last summer, they said, we're done. They canceled their tour. Maybe it was 2 years ago. I can't remember. They had to cancel their tour. They said, we're done. Steven Tyler had surgery on his vocal cords. And then after, I guess the normal recovery period, his doctor said, you're never going to recover. You can't sing again. So Aerosmith said, goodbye. We can't play anymore. So I thought, is he, okay to sing? And he was awesome. Steven Tyler was maybe, I don't know if he was the star of the whole show, and he was one of the biggest surprises too. Looked and sounded amazing. The guy is 77, I think. He looks pretty much like he did, similar to KK Downing. He looks like he did in the early mid 80s or whatever. Yeah, and they did Train Kept It Rollin', and oh no, that was with Travis Barker. And then Travis left. Oh, and you could hear Steven Tyler off mic or I guess he was on mic, but off stage. As the band was out there and ready to play, Steven Tyler, you could hear him saying, I think he said a couple times, you couldn't see him. He was off stage. He says, I got no mic. And then I guess they got it and he came out. And Steven Tyler really, really killed it. I hate that expression, but it's true. He was great. So then Travis Barker left. Ronnie Wood left. Ronnie Wood just did the one song. Chad Smith came back and replaced Travis Barker. And they did Walk This Way. And it was great. And they did Whole Lotta Love, which was really, really good. Got a great, I think up to this point, that was the biggest crowd response was for Whole Lotta Love. Again, I thought it was weird though that, they did a Led Zeppelin song, an Aerosmith song, and Train Kept It Rolling. I guess we can say it's an Aerosmith song. No Black Sabbath or Ozzy. And then at the end, this was very rock and roll, old school rock and roll. Chad Smith was kind of kicking off his kick drum, trying to kick it off the stage. He couldn't quite get it off. Maybe there was too much holding it on there. Next was Sounds of Birmingham again, and it was Meat Dripper. I think this was the third time that Meat Dripper was featured. No fan testimonials, just that Sounds of Birmingham. And next musically was Pantera. Now Jason Momoa introduced them. I don't know why some bands got an introduction from Jason Momoa, some didn't, but Pantera did. And maybe I'm being nitpicky here. Not really a criticism, just something that I noted. He made a point of saying that I'm going out in the pit, make room for me in the pit. So it was like saying, hey, look at me. I mean, the guy's a big celebrity. You think he wouldn't need the extra attention, but good for him that he's a fan. Good for him. So Pantera and then Jason Momoa, went in the pit. The camera followed him. What I didn't like about that was the camera was on Jason Momoa. It felt like, when Taylor Swift was always going to Kansas City Chiefs playoff games and they showed her. It was kind of like that. And you think, oh, but it's only, 30 seconds total. Yeah, but it's kind of distracting. And not really interesting to see Jason Momoa in a pit or to see Taylor Swift sitting in a private box in a football stadium. So Pantera did... this was really cool. They did, and I was talking with my friend Monty about this. We were trying to predict what some of the bands would do. And I said, maybe Pantera, because they've done 3 Black Sabbath covers in their career. They did Planet Caravan on Far Beyond Driven. They did Hole in the Sky. I can't remember what that was for. Was it a movie soundtrack? I don't know. And they did Hand of Doom. No, Electric Funeral on one. I think it was I can't remember if it was the first or second Nativity in Black tribute album, the Black Sabbath tribute album. So I thought, they're probably going to do one of those songs. And they did. They did Planet Caravan and Electric Funeral. I thought it was, they opened with Cowboys from Hell, and then they morphed, it was like half of Cowboys from Hell, and then they did Walk, which is cool. Pantera sounded great. Everybody, Zach, Charlie, Rex, Phil, all sounded great. I thought it was very, very ballsy, very bold to do Planet Caravan, because, you know, it's such a mellow song, and Phil is out there vulnerable. You know, he doesn't have these, you know, these loud, distorted riffs backing him up or the power or anything. He's pretty exposed and vulnerable, you know, really opened himself up or exposed himself to, you know, what could have been disastrous, and he sounded great. And man, I have to say, in a different way than Steven Tyler, maybe Phil sounded better than anybody. He's had a lot of problems in somewhat let's say the last 20 years, and he really has his act together. And this goes back to, you know, Pantera shows too over the last year or whatever. Very, very impressed with Phil Anselmo. I'm glad that he's got everything together in his life, and he sounded great on Planet Caravan. And then they closed with Electric Funeral, which was really, really good. Next was another Sounds of Birmingham vignette. Again, I think for the third time with Margarita Witch Call. A Brian Johnson and Angus Young testimonial. My God, Angus Young. The opposite of KK Downing, Steven Tyler, and Phil Anselmo. Angus Young looked awful. Not just old. Yeah, he's got white hair. I don't care about that. You can have long hair and still look good. It's not just about how your hair looks. Just he looked haggard. Yeah, Angus Young looked like Angus old. Really, really surprising how disheveled Angus looked. And just he didn't really have much energy. Brian Johnson was great. It's just a testimonial. What do you want? I'm not, you know, criticizing their performance. And then there was more fan testimonials. So that's the end of the first page of notes. So I'm going to flip. Now I've got this one. This is about 88% of a page here. All right. So I guess we're close to halfway through. I don't know. Tool played next. I never got into Tool, and I remembered why. And I know they've become, it's kind of weird. Tool, I remember at the time, in the mid-90s and throughout, they were, I mean, people liked them, but they were not like a big headline arena act. And all of a sudden, some years ago, everybody's a big Tool fan. They're playing massive shows, multiple nights, and everybody is, you know, the biggest Tool fan in the world. And the only Tool album I ever bought was Enema, or Enema, I'm not sure. I think the song was Enema, and then the album was Enema. I bought that record at the time it came out in 96. And I did like, or I even loved 3 songs. Hooker with the Penis, Stink Fist, and Eulogy. Those are great, great songs. I thought, why can't I remember any of their other songs? And then I took a look at it yesterday, and I think the reason I remember why, that album was just too long. That album was 77 or 78 minutes long, and they had all these weird little interludes between songs. It just makes me lose interest. Anyway, they did Hand of Doom, and it was good. And I like Maynard Keenan as a singer. I like him. I think he sounds really good. He sounds awesome on Deftones. I love White Pony, the Deftones album, and they have a song on there called Passenger that Maynard sings co-lead with Chino Moreno, and he sounds great. I like Maynard, but yeah, Tool, they're just a little bit too much for me. Nothing wrong with them. It's just too much. Next was another Sounds of Birmingham vignette, and it was Meat Dripper. This is the 3rd or 4th time with Meat Dripper. A Joe Elliott testimonial. So Joe Elliott was with the Def Leppard testimonial, and then he had one on his own, and then more fan testimonials. Next was Slayer. This was when pretty much from here were the bands that I was really looking forward to. Slayer being the first one. And, you know, they've done a few shows since they got back together, and that's one of the worst. You know, I love Slayer, one of my favorites. And if there was one band that you thought was going to say, we're done and mean it, you'd think it would be Slayer. But no, they were gone for 5 years and they came back. And I think I think this comeback is going to be bigger than they're letting on. And so yeah, they've been around now. I guess they've done some shows, but I haven't really paid much attention. I was kind of surprised. Tom Araya looked, he was a little bit puffy. Not really fat, but his face was kind of puffy. And he's still got long hair, but his hair is kind of short. It's like short long hair or long short hair. A little bit gray, and that's okay. But they opened with Disciple, and I thought, oh man, Tom Araya sounds really bad. And then, he introduced, I'm not sure, I think the second song, I didn't write this down, but I think the second song was War Ensemble. And what he's done for years and years, I think since that song has been out, from Seasons in the Abyss in 1990, he introduces it just by screaming War Ensemble. I'm not even going to attempt to do it. He really, really strongly, and I said I'm not going to attempt to do it now, I'm going to attempt to do it. War Ensemble! And he sounds fucking awesome every time he does it, including here. I thought, oh, okay, that's kind of weird that he his singing on Disciple was kind of questionable. But, when he still has his Tom Araya voice when he's kind of speaking. So Disciple. And then, War Ensemble, he sounded great. But then I remembered, I don't think he's ever really sang Disciple like he did on the record on God Hates Us All. And that's one of my favorite Slayer songs, Disciple. And I had that, and I guess I still have that Slayer War at the Warfield DVD. And they open with Disciple on that. And I remember even on that, and that was in like 96 when that came out. I don't know. He doesn't sing it with the intensity that it does on the record. Anyway, as Slayer went on, Tom Araya actually sounded quite good, but he just doesn't get Disciple right. And then their Black Sabbath song was, and he also, Tom's Scream, Araya's Scream on Angel of Death, which they close with, was really, really good. That one, he used to do it I think in more recent years in a lower register. This one, he went back up to his high register, and maybe he's done the high register for years, I don't know. But he really, really, really did that Angel of Death Scream very nicely. And so they did their Black Sabbath song was Wicked World. Cool surprise. I think that was really cool that they did that. I thought they might have done Hand of Doom. Tool had done it already, and I don't know what the protocol was for whoever chooses it first gets dibs, or if the higher bands get to choose first, or if somebody chooses it, you can't choose, do another one. But I thought, I wonder if Slayer, because they did Hand of Doom on that same Black Sabbath tribute album, The Nativity in Black, that Pantera did Electric Funeral. I thought, maybe they're going to be lazy and they're just going to do Hand of Doom. But they didn't. They did Wicked World, and it was excellent. Very, very, I wouldn't think that would be suited to Slayer, but they did it very, very well. And I was kind of disappointed because they did maybe 2 minutes of it, and then they went into South of Heaven. I thought, oh man, they didn't do the full song. But then they also cut South of Heaven short and went back into, I guess, like a reprise of Wicked World. Really, really good. Next is a Fred Durst testimonial, and he also did Changes. He was sitting in a studio, and the camera was just on him. Thank you, Ozzy, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, I'm going to try something, and I guess the camera panned out, and there was a guy playing acoustic guitar, and a woman, she was playing I guess it's the world's biggest violin. She couldn't even fit it under her chin like this. She had it here between her legs, and she was playing it like this. I've never seen a violin that big. And so they did Changes, and it was pretty good. You maybe wouldn't expect that. Oh, that was another one that was repeated, because, well, not live. Youngblood did it. Fred Durst wasn't there in the stadium, but it was the second time, whether it was live or in the studio, second time we heard Changes. And it was pretty good. And then another Sounds of Birmingham vignette with, again, the second time doing the Coffin Works, Coffin Fittings Decoration Company. And then a Judas Priest testimonial, all 5 of them. And then more fan testimonial, including there was a woman. Sorry if this woman sees it. I know she won't. But there was a woman. You remember when Peter Criss, maybe this was in the mid 80s or late 80s, when there was a Peter Criss imposter, and in the National Enquirer, something they said Peter Criss was homeless, and it turns out that it was somebody impersonating Peter Criss. Well, this woman who gave a testimony about how much she loves Black Sabbath and Ozzy, I'm sure that was the same impersonator, the Peter Criss impersonator. Watch it. Tell me you disagree. Next was one of them. I think the most interesting, maybe the one that I think I and a lot of people are looking forward to the most, or maybe the most curious about. Guns N' Roses was next. Now, overall about Guns N' Roses, they were pretty good. There's something about Guns N' Roses that none of these other bands have. And maybe it's because Axl is such a recluse, and recluse or recluse. He's reclusive, or I think he's a recluse as a noun. So, he's kind of a mysterious guy, very odd and strange, and and so I felt like there were more people on the side of the stage watching Guns N' Roses than any other band. I don't know if that was true or not, but I feel like I did see Dave Ellefson with his phone. He was taking video of Guns N' Roses. And a few other people, I can't remember. And I know, before I get to Guns N' Roses in their context of this concert, I will strongly defend Axl Rose, and I know his voice. He sings in a very, very high, falsetto. I know he's got no power. He sounds very, very strange, almost unidentifiable as Axl Rose's voice, and physically too. He's just so strange looking. But I will forever give him credit for. Guns N' Roses plays pretty much 3 hours every night, 240 to 3 hours every night. They play 27 to 30. I think recently they played a 32-song set somewhere. I will give them major. And I think that's mostly Axl's doing. And I'm not saying that his voice is like that because it's not like, oh, he's playing 3-hour shows, give him a break, his voice is strained. I'm not saying that. I really, really appreciate the effort that they, or I think Axl particularly, that they make towards playing long shows. I like long concerts. I wish every band could play 3 hours. So yeah, big credit for Axl. I love Axl. There's something about him. He's just so mysterious. He's got an aura or a vibe to him, or he's very compelling or something. So I was very curious, and there's not really a Black Sabbath connection. I've never heard Axl, I don't think, talk about Black Sabbath. I know Slash has done stuff with Ozzy, and I'm sure they're all fans. So when this was first announced, I thought, oh, that's kind of strange. And then my friend Monty, aforementioned several times, he reminded me that Axl, going back even to the 90s, did It's All Right, the Bill Ward song on Technical Ecstasy. And it's on piano, and that's what they open with. And something interesting, and this is kind of cool about Axl, he sat down, he played one note on the piano, and then I guess it was wrong, and then he said, I think it was off the mic, but you could clearly hear it. He said, oh, that was my fault. Which you would think, in the 90s, he would have been freaking out, smashing the piano, demanding a translator come on stage, even though everybody in the audience speaks English. But he just said, oh, that was my fault. And then he went on the mic and he said, can you hear me? Am I on? And the crowd, erupted. And he said, okay. And he immediately started playing It's All Right. Only did, I think, about a minute of it. And then they immediately went into Never Say Die, which was great. That was really cool. But in Never Say Die, there were a few times. Oh, and another thing about It's All Right. He was singing and playing kind of fast, playing it on the piano and singing. It sounded like he was kind of rushing through it. It was definitely more up-tempo than it should have been. And then they played Never Say Die, and there were a few points in Never Say Die that his timing was off. He was like he was ahead of the music. He sounded like he was rushing. And then they did Junior's Eyes. That was fucking awesome. Junior's Eyes is one of my favorite Black Sabbath songs. Of those kind of two forgotten albums, Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die, Junior's Eyes is the highlight for sure. I think it's a fantastic song, and they did a great version of it. And then they did Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Now, before I get to that, there was one point where Axl, they finished playing Junior's Eyes, and Axl, he always walks as he talks, and as he addresses the crowd. And he said, we just want to thank Ozzy and Sharon and Black Sabbath for having us, and thank you for coming. And as he was speaking and walking across the stage, he's talking like this, looking at the crowd, not looking down, and he tripped on something. I don't know if it was a cable or a mic stand or what it was, and he tripped as he was talking. So as he tripped, he kind of went off mic for a little bit, and he said, thank you, Sharon, thank you, Ozzy, thank you, Black Sabbath, thanks all of you. And then he continued walking. He turned around and he said, as I trip over some shit. I watched that. I don't think I watched that. I went back 10 seconds. I don't think I watched that less than 15 times and laughed harder and harder. My laughter accumulated. I don't know why. It's one of those stupid things that somebody, I guess everybody else just watched and go, Axl tripped. But just the way he handled it, as I trip over some shit. And then he continued. Oh, and then he introduced Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath by saying something like, here's a song, or we're going to do one now to lift your spirits or something. And it was Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. I just thought that was very funny. And again, I think that's the kind of thing that Axl some years ago would have handled very differently. I'm very proud of Axl, as proud as you can be of somebody who you have no personal connection to. You know, he's really got his act together. He's very personable. He's had no problems. You know, they've been touring now for like 9 years. And everybody says, they're going to last one night. This was in 2016. And Axl's going to blow it. No, Axl has, whether it's medication or therapy or just, you know, he's a changed person, whatever it is. I don't know why. He's changed, but he has. And I really like Axl now. So yeah, man, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. It was great until they got to the really heavy part. Maybe the heaviest Black Sabbath part ever. Where Did You Run To? That part. Axl totally fucked that up. He was singing way ahead of the beat. He was on every line he was coming in too early. And you know, that heavy part, it has two verses with that middle part. So I thought maybe in the second part of that, you know, that middle heavy part, the breakdown, whatever you want to call it, I thought he would get back on track, but he never did. He was just coming in way too early through the whole two sections. If you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't see it, hopefully you do know what I'm talking about. And he sounded okay. Well, he sounded the way he's sounded for a couple of years now, but his timing was way off. I don't know if it was a problem with his in-ear monitor, if it was a stage problem. If he was doing it intentionally, like I did consider, like, is he doing that, you know, just to mix it up a little bit? But it didn't sound right. And I thought this could really kind of go, you know, he could derail the whole thing. Because I thought if the band is, I don't know what they're all hearing in their monitors, in their ears, but I thought if the band hears him singing, they're going to think that they're out of time or behind or something, and they're going to, you know, go faster. But yeah, that was very, musically, that was the most noteworthy thing, I think, in this whole concert. Axl really was way off. And then it continued. In Welcome to the Jungle, again, he was also singing fast. Not as bad as Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, but he was definitely singing ahead of the beat. And then Paradise City, which they closed with, I think even more, he was singing fast again. So very strange. And I think also just one more note about Guns N' Roses in general. I think that Slash played, and I don't want to be too critical. This is just like a good time. He was a little bit sloppy. The intro to Welcome to the Jungle and Paradise City, Slash didn't play those that well. He just sounded a little bit loose and sloppy. All right. And then at the end, Axl, this was very strange. When he was, when they were finishing up, the opening, the closing bombastic part of, Paradise City. And Axl is thank you, Ozzy, thank you, Black Sabbath, thank you, Birmingham. He switched to his, his powerful, strong Axl voice. He sounded fucking awesome. And I think, man, can this guy really sing? Maybe like Tom Araya. I don't know if his spoken voice is better or different than his singing voice. I don't know if it's self-preservation. Maybe he can't sing like that for long periods, so he's doing that to kind of preserve or conserve his voice. But when he was saying Ozzy, Sabbath, thank you, Birmingham, he sounded like Axl Rose sounded in the 90s, like at his peak. Sounded great. His voice, he dropped down to that grittier voice. Next was a Ricky Gervais testimonial. And then they started a new thing called Earlier in the Day. This is where they kind of recap. They showed full, complete songs from bands that had played earlier in the day. The first one in this Earlier in the Day series, it was Alice in Chains doing Fairies Wear Boots, and Lamb of God doing, I didn't write the songs, Children of the Grave. They didn't do the songs again. They were repeated from their sets earlier in the day. which is why it was called earlier in the day. And then they repeated, they started to repeat the fan testimonials. I would think that they would have enough fan testimonials to get through a month of shows, but they were repeating some. Metallica was next, and you know what, man, I'm like the biggest Metallica fan. They're one of my favorite. I know I've said this about Pantera and Slayer, but really, man, Metallica and Kiss are probably my two favorite bands ever. And just overall, I don't know, I was a little bit disappointed in them. They just sounded kind of loose and didn't sound that great. There's just a little bit something off for me. Maybe somebody else would say, "Oh man, Metallica was awesome." I just thought they were a little bit, I guess, off is the only way I can say it. They opened with "Hole in the Sky," which sounded weird. The way they played it and just the tone, the sonically, the sound of it. It just, I don't know if they tuned it down or what it was, but it just sounded a little bit strange. And then they did Johnny Blade. Now this was great. Along with Junior's Eyes, Johnny Blade is a great song from Never Say Die. Loved it. That was a great and cool choice. That was a really great choice for Metallica to do Johnny Blade. And that's it for Metallica. You know, my numbers to say, James Hetfield was wearing like mariachi pants, I think. I think he got those when they played in Mexico in September last year. So yeah, and they did Creeping Death and closed with Master of Puppets. Was that it? I think they did. Did they do those 5 songs? Hole in the Sky, Johnny Blade. I didn't write down their own songs. Hole in the Sky, Johnny Blade. No, just the 2. Anyway, oh no, they did Battery too. They were the only band who left the stage and then came back. Not like as an encore, but you know, they during Battery, and a lot of the songs were on their current tour. They have these musical pre-recorded introductions. So they went off the stage. I thought they were done. And then you could hear this. It's kind of like a remixed version of the intro of Battery, the acoustic guitar. And then they came out and they played Battery, which was great. They played it very fast. And that was it for Metallica. And then the next was more repeats of the fan testimonials that were shown earlier. Sounds of Birmingham, the House of Thieves Tattoo Parlor again. And then they repeated more fan testimonials. Then they did another earlier in the day thing. They showed Dave Draymond and Jake Lee and whoever else did Shot in the Dark. And they showed Anthrax doing, what did Anthrax do? Into the Void. And then what I really liked, they did, they showed this kind of behind the scenes thing that I guess was done in the days, probably the day before and maybe 2 days before. A lot of backstage stuff. There was no audio in it. It was just set to, I think it was the song Black Sabbath. So you couldn't really hear in some parts what they were saying. It's all the bands. They're all backstage. I didn't see Slayer at all. I didn't see Guns N' Roses at all. Maybe they hadn't arrived in Birmingham yet. Maybe it was earlier in the week. Lars called it. Lars was greeting, was it Chad Smith? I think it was. They went up and they embraced, and Lars said, "This is like heavy metal summer camp." And I'm sure everybody else would love to see that. That could be a full like 2-hour documentary of that. All these guys hanging around. So it was video of them all talking to each other, saying hello, high-fiving and hugging. And, they did a photo shoot with Ross Halfin. And there were some, video excerpts of that, getting them, Ross Halfin directing them in the photo. That was really cool to see. It's kind of like backstage, schmoozing and things like that. I would love to see that. If they could, that'll probably surface someday. It might be in 20 years, but it'll come out someday. It was really cool to see that. Next was Ozzy. So this was like this is when it got real. And let me talk briefly about my Ozzy history. I have a really strong attachment to Ozzy. He was my first concert ever, April 25th, 1984 at Maple Leaf Gardens on the Bark of the Moon tour. And I had been into him at that point for about 3 years, I guess. And I'd been into Black Sabbath for a year prior to that. And so that was a really big deal. And Ozzy, there were periods, long periods where I just thought, I'm over Ozzy. Like, I don't care about really anything Ozzy has done post. Even No More Tears. I know a lot of people love that album. I did buy it. I think that was the last one I bought. I just never got into it. I would even say loved No Rest for the Wicked. No More Tears was pretty much the end. After whatever came after that, Osmosis and Down to Earth, Patient Number 9, Ordinary Man, didn't care about that. But, you know, I was, you know, when Ozzy came up, and it was a really, really cool introduction. His big black throne came up from the stage. Man, there were a lot of things during this concert that I really liked. This was the only one to this point that I was smiling. I was like, man, this is so cool. I can't believe he did it. Because, you know, there was a lot of speculation, and he even said, I don't know how I'm going to do it. They talked about, I think in the month leading up to it, he might have to sing it from the studio, he might have to sing it from home, and they put him in on video or something. And he did it, and I was thinking, he did it. Here he is. He's on the stage. The crowd was going crazy. And it was so amazing to see the crowd going crazy, and the feeling that I had coming after Guns N' Roses and after Metallica. Because Ozzy, you know, as a solo artist, if this had been a normal festival, let's say 10 years ago, it would have been Metallica, Guns N' Roses, and Ozzy. But I just really, really, it brought me great joy to see Ozzy. And I kind of, I felt very happy for him. And I felt sad for him too. Man, he's been through a lot. And he's such a lovable guy, you know, so like, you know, Gina and Paul, as much as I love Kiss, they're not really likable people. I think everybody loves Ozzy. As a person, he's such a character. He's funny. He's engaging. He's charismatic. He's a great performer. You know, I know he's repetitive. He just walks back and forth and raises his hands and let me hear you go fucking crazy. But man, there's something about Ozzy that is missing from every other musician that I love. And I was thrilled when Ozzy came up. He looked awesome. And when this was happening in real time, not on the stream, my friend Monty, he sent me a message saying, he's on, Ozzy is on. And he said, he sounds great. And I said, do you think he's getting help? Like I thought maybe he was lip syncing, or, you know, there were backing tracks or something. And he said, I don't know, it doesn't look like it. And because I think somebody was posting clips on YouTube or something. And so when I watched it, and I was, you know, really looking at it really closely, it seemed very live, very, very live. He definitely wasn't lip syncing, because you could see when he went off mic a little bit, you could see maybe when he was about to say something and nothing came out. There were a few things I thought that made me think, yeah, he really is singing. I'm sure there was some kind of effect on his voice, you know, like they call it studio magic. I'm sure they can translate that studio magic to live magic now. Man, he fucking sounded good. He sounded really good. I think even some years ago he didn't even sound that good. He sounded shockingly good. And maybe it'll come out in some time that he had a lot of help. I don't care. Maybe I'll care if that comes out, but as of now, I don't care. I was just very happy and thrilled to see Ozzy. And I would say his whole set was the best one. I liked, as a whole set, I liked him better than Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Pantera, everybody. Loved it. And it was Zakk Wylde playing guitar, Mike Inez on bass, and I didn't know who was drumming, but it was Tommy Clufitos, I think that's how you say his name, who played drums for Black Sabbath on their last couple of tours. And yeah, the whole band sounded great. I loved it. It was very, very cool. A little bit, you know, I could do without Zakk Wylde's pinch harmonics. I know people love to complain about that. I don't mind if he plays that on his songs, you know, on the songs from No Rest for the Wicked or No More Tears. But it's a little bit too much to hear them, because he does a lot of them. It didn't really, like I said, it was the best, for me, the best set of the night. So it wasn't egregious, but I could have done without them. And they opened with I Don't Know, which I loved, and I think I predicted that, and I have a very strong attachment to that. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, Ozzy was my first concert ever, and he opened with I Don't Know. So it was kind of like full circle, you know, Ozzy's last concert, opening with I Don't Know. He was my first concert, and he also opened with I Don't Know. So that will for always, forever, and always be a sentimental favorite, I Don't Know. Loved it. Something I noticed that he did after the first song, I Don't Know, and I think after the second song, he had like a little table beside him. He had a bottle of water there and some other things. I don't know what they were. But, you know, he was, after I Don't Know, he addressed the crowd, and he had like a little bottle, and he sprayed it. Now, you know, you have this throat spray, like when you have a cold or something. I guess it's like liquid lozenge, and you spray it in your throat. He was doing that. I've never seen any singer spray their throat before. Just thought that was noteworthy. What else? Then he did, and his set, pretty much everybody's set was pretty predictable. Nothing wrong with that. He did Mr. Crowley next, which was great. He did Suicide Solution. You would expect those three. He did Mama, I'm Coming Home. That was the only song he did that wasn't from Blizzard of Oz. I've never liked Mama, I'm Coming Home. And I love some ballads, Ozzy or anybody, but I just never get into Mama, I'm Coming Home. Don't know why, I just didn't like it. This was the only time that I've ever liked it. I even loved it. Maybe because, you know, it had maybe more of a sentimental feel to it, despite the copious amounts of crowd shots of people in the crowd crying. I thought that was a little bit too much, but yeah, I really enjoyed Mama, I'm Coming Home. Very enjoyable. And then he closed with, as you would expect, Crazy Train. I think he did he fuck up the last line or two lines? Maybe not, I can't remember. But yeah, that was great. And this was going back to, I don't know if I mentioned this before, double duty. Who's done double duty? Zakk Wylde was Pantera and Ozzy. Mike Inez was Alice in Chains and Ozzy. Ozzy was Ozzy and Black Sabbath. Anybody else did double duty? Well, Scott Ian played with Anthrax, and then he also played with some of the supergroups. Anyway, so I was just overjoyed to see Ozzy again. That was really, really cool. Next, and I'm almost finished. Next, there was more fan testimonials. Sounds of Birmingham again, and it was again that Scruff Murphy's band that I mentioned earlier. They were repeated. And then Black Sabbath played. And it was a little bit, it wasn't anticlimactic to see Ozzy because he had already, he had done his solo thing. But, the first time you're seeing Geezer and Tony and Bill Ward. And that was also, again, for me, very thrilling. I just felt so good. The siren was playing. And by that point, they were the first band to play in full darkness. Ozzy was, I think by the time Ozzy finished, it was pretty dark. But Black Sabbath was the first band to play in total darkness, which adds to the mood, of course. And man, I just loved, Ozzy said during the intro of War Pigs, he said, "We are Black Sabbath." And he just said it so matter-of-factly and so unnecessarily. You don't need to tell anybody that you're Black Sabbath, but it just seems so appropriate. That was another time, man, I was smiling so hard when he said "We are Black Sabbath." It just made me feel so good. Brought a big smile to my face. We are Black Sabbath. For me, that was maybe not musically, but in terms of these little moments. Aside from Axl's excuse, as I trip over my shit, which was funny. That was maybe the highlight of the night for me. Just "We Are Black Sabbath," just so amazing. And War Pigs, I think maybe I talked about this when I did Paranoid 2 years ago, year and a half ago, whenever I did it. I want to talk about this album. To me, that's like the heavy metal song. That's the I think it should be considered the quintessential heavy metal song. That song represents what heavy metal is. And it was just incredible. Now something else about War Pigs. I do remember either my friend Monty or John. Hello, John, if you're still watching. One of them sent me a clip of them playing War Pigs. There's that song is about everything. It's about the guitar, it's about the vocals, it's about the bass and the drums, everything. The whole vibe of the song. And the drum fills, War Pigs has some of the great drum fills ever. And when I saw it, this clip of it, and I can't remember if it was, I guess it was a fan film clip. And when does the first one come after? Those drum fills, right? You couldn't hear them, and then, or you could hear them, but they were way off. And I thought, oh man, like is Bill Ward, did he fuck these up? Did he forget to play them? Or he can't play them anymore? And I thought, oh, that's too bad. But then when I watched it and I could see the whole thing, I guess he can't play them at least the way they were played originally. So he did modify them. They're much simpler. Instead of like, I can't sing drums. Instead of, like these big, long, really, great fills, they're much simpler, shorter, direct to the point. No problem with that. If Bill Ward can't play it, he's 75, 76 years old, and I guess those are tough to play. This is not criticism. I'm just pointing that out. And it made sense from what I saw, because when I saw the clips, I couldn't see Bill Ward playing. But when I saw it in the actual live stream, I could hear it. But yeah, those fills were very, very different, all of them. But I did love it. Something else that I loved, I really, really loved, at some point, Bill took his shirt off. And as I said, he's 75 or 76 years old. He's got an enormous belly. His head is shaved. He's physically, at least visually, he looks like he's in terrible condition. But I loved it. I don't know why. I really, really, really... I was also happy to see that. And I texted my friend Monty about that. Oh man, I love that Bill took his shirt off. And he said, yeah, me too. I know, it just seemed very cool. Very, very Black Sabbath to think, fuck you, we don't care what you think. I don't care if I look like this. I thought that was a very cool moment. A very cool rock moment that Bill Ward took his shirt off. What else? Something, Judas Priest, I think the week before this show, they had recorded a cover of War Pigs. This is my last thing on War Pigs. And they released it just a week before the show. And I've been listening to War Pigs since 1980. I got Paranoid in 1980, and I've been listening to it, so that's 45 years that I've been listening to it. Is that? Yeah, 45 years. And all that time, I thought they were saying, or Ozzy was singing, politicians hide themselves away. They only started the war. Why should they go out to fight? They leave that all to the poor. And then when I heard Judas Priest's cover, Halford clearly sings it as politicians hide themselves away. They only started the war. Why should they go out to fight? They leave that role to the poor. I thought all along it was they leave that all to the poor. And Halford was singing, they leave that role to the poor. And I listened to Paranoid, and I'll be damned if Ozzy isn't singing, they leave that all to the poor. But he kind of, just the way he sings it, they leave that all to the poor. And it sounds like he's saying that all. They leave that all to the poor. But when when it's planted in your head, that role, you hear it, oh my God, how have I not heard that in 45 years? So I learned something new about War Pigs from, thank you, Judas Priest, or Rob Halford. Next was NIB. This was a little bit of a surprise. My friend Monty and I were texting saying, yeah, Black Sabbath, they're going to do 4 songs. It's going to be War Pigs in whatever order. War Pigs. I thought they were going to open with War Pigs, close with, I don't want to do this. I was counting. Open with War Pigs, close with Paranoid, and then the other 2 would be Iron Man and the song Black Sabbath. And they didn't do Black Sabbath, which I was very, very surprised at. I'm surprised that they did NIB instead. I love NIB. Not a complaint, just pointing it out. And Tony, in an interview after, I don't know if the interview was done after or if it came out after, he said that they did rehearse Black Sabbath, the song, and they rehearsed Fairies Wear Boots too, but they didn't do them. And nobody did the song Black Sabbath. Maybe that was untouchable for anybody else to do it. What else? Iron Man. Yeah, then they played Iron Man was the 3rd song. That was also really cool for me. That was the first Black Sabbath song that I ever heard. Before I had Paranoid, I did know Iron Man. That was what made me want to get Paranoid. And that's a real definitive Black Sabbath song too. I love Iron Man. So many different parts to it. It's fast, it's slow, it's heavy, it's doomy. Love Iron Man. And then, of course, they close with Paranoid, as they always do, and as Ozzy, I think, has always done. Bill missed his cue here. So Tony opens, of course, with that riff. Bill missed that. Geezer was playing the bass, so it was down, and then just bass. And then Bill came in with his drums, I guess on the next measure, I'm not sure. And yeah, so I guess he missed his cue. It's okay. I have no problem with that. Again, I'm just pointing that out. So that was it. And then they finished Paranoid. I've never really liked Paranoid as a closing song. It's just it's not representative of Black Sabbath, I don't think. I like it. There's nothing wrong with it. No, I do like it. And I go hiking every week. And on my last hike before this concert, I was talking about this concert with my hiking friend, Eric, and he's from Belgium. And I said, oh, so the last Black Sabbath concert is coming up this weekend. This was on Wednesday, a couple of days before the concert. And he said, I only know Paranoid. That's the only song I've heard. And he said, is that representative? Like, is that like a good indication of how they are? I thought, that's a pretty good question. And I said, kind of yes, kind of no. It is a heavy song. It's got a great riff to it, but it doesn't have, I think, some of the qualities that the great Black Sabbath songs have. It doesn't have that epic feel to it like War Pigs and Black Sabbath and Sabbath Blaze Sabbath. It doesn't have all these different parts to it. It's pretty much just straight ahead. And I think as a closing song, I think it's just too simple. Yeah, I'm not just saying for this concert it was great, of course, but I never saw Paranoid as Black Sabbath's signature song that they should close with. All right, so that's it. That's all I have to say. Oh my God, I have no idea. I can't see on the screen how long this was. I'm gonna guess it's an hour and 42 at this point. It feels like an hour and 42. But that's all. And that was a really so much better than I had expected and what I hoped. And I think maybe the reason is, I talked about this again with my friend Monty. I think maybe the reason is I've maybe talked about this before when I've done videos. I hate hype. I fucking hate it when bands, they're recording a new album. They say how great it is. And even Rob Dukes from Exodus recently said, they just recorded their new album. This is the heaviest or the best work I've ever done with Exodus. And Gary Holt of Exodus is always saying it's our fastest album. And everybody else says it's our heaviest, it's our best, it's our this, it's that. I just hate it because you're just giving, I understand what you're trying to do, but I think you're creating false expectations. And I kind of like that this one, they were kind of saying, Tony, Iommi, he was saying, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if Ozzy can do it. He's not in the best shape. He can't stand up. We're gonna have to see what happens. And I think maybe that was why I liked it too. I think I like the concept of under promising and over delivering as opposed to over promising and under delivering. And I think Maiden did that too. I did a video with them or about their tour a month and a half ago, whatever. And I think just Bruce Dickinson talked about it too much, and Sheriff Rod Smallwood talked about it too much, and just too much hype. And to me, it creates unrealistic expectations. So I like that Black Sabbath kind of downplayed it and said, we'll see what happens, instead of saying this is going to be the greatest concert of your life or the greatest concert of our lives. And, no, I was very, very, very impressed. I don't know how many times I'm going to watch it at 10 hours or 9 hours and 52 minutes, whatever it is. It's a little bit long to sit down even for a weekend and watch, but I'm very happy that it took place, and watch for it to happen with other bands too, right? So thank you for watching. I don't know anybody who watched this whole video. I'm sure you scrolled the little red dot that goes along the little red line. That's okay, I understand. But thank you for whatever time you did watching it. I've got other stuff too. There's gonna be more, I have, I think, 3 episodes of I Want to Talk About This Album in the can, but I wanted to get this up first. So those will be coming up soon. And then some big changes coming to the channel, at least aesthetically. All right. Thank you once again for watching. That was all for just one of the greatest events, and for me, Black Sabbath and Ozzy, very, very big bands for me. Great concert. That's all for me and for all of them. Black Sabbath, Ozzy, Bill, Geezer, Tony. That's all. See ya.